Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Pamela, and you are watching Pam Entertainment TV, where we review movies, television series, and do celebrity legal news. Also, join me for my pop culture chats. If you'd like to support the channel, please like, comment, and subscribe. My Venmo and Cash App is below. Thank you so much, and let's get started.
I'm back, y'all. I am definitely back. I wanted to sit down, have a good sit down and sit and marinate with the movie because I think that the first review was a little too off the cuff. So I am going to take my time to go through the movie and talk about the different aspects of the movie that I liked and talk about the different aspects of the movie that I didn't like. Overall, I liked the movie. One of the things that I liked about Fantastic Four, the first step, is it wasn't an origin story. I like the fact that I love when they just drop us in like they do in Call of Duty. They just drop us in and we're going around and figuring, doing stuff and figuring. I love that. I love that they dropped us in and immersed them in their world. We saw they were already popular because, again, as they had mentioned at that time, they were 4 years out. And so the world that they're in is used to them with their superpowers and things like that. I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed the immersibility. So you didn't have to worry about, you were able to see that they did some work and they garnered the trust of the world that they lived in. I think it was the 828 or the 838. Y'all let me know down in the comments. But they were fully immersed. And in this world, you had different people. I enjoyed the Subterraneans, and we didn't see a whole lot of them, but it's nice to know that there are just sets of people that are doing their own thing. And I said in my last review, my quick review just off the cuff, I said, I liked the way the world felt. The world felt to me as if, and I'm going to say this the best way I can, this seemed like a world that got it right in regards to racial divide. And what I mean is, everybody that was working and doing the things that they needed to do, they were in tandem. Nobody was saying anything. It's like how I would have envisioned the world we live in after Man on the Moon. Everybody was into making sure that as Americans, we were getting and moving and shaking instead of, for some of us, they were pushing us aside and doing all these other different things. I like the fact that there was a world that looked like I envisioned. So I like that. I liked the colors. If you're familiar, if you have lived on these earth as long as I have, things like Pan Am and all those things, seeing those types of products having such a huge impact in the world. And I told you before, this is the world that I envisioned, because I envisioned when I was younger, everybody said by 2010 or 2013, we'd have flying cars. We ain't got none of that. And again, because we have spent so much time in the world not allowing each other to grow. And that's the way I think. Allowing each other to grow and grow as communities. We've done a lot of fighting and backbiting and CIA deals and all this different stuff. And so this world to me seems like they were they had very a cohesiveness, and they were aware that humans weren't their only threat. Again, they had their villains and things like that they were working with. I do appreciate that. And again, I do appreciate them dropping us in. Visually, I loved this world. I loved the blues. I loved the pinks. I loved it being a little askew kind of off gray, but the colors were making it pop. The clothing, the colors was making it pop. I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the retro futuristic of all the things. I enjoyed her birth control stick. being electronic, but it beat. I enjoyed all of that, but it used like old tech, but it still worked. I enjoyed how their house worked, how their house was laid out and everything. Uh, I enjoyed all that. Visually, this show was pleasing to me. This show was pleasing to me, and visually, it was pleasing. So less for me to go on that. Let me get into the characters and how I felt about these characters. So I'm going to start with Sue and Reed Richards. They're married, and when we see them, they find out that they're pregnant. And when they find out that they're pregnant, there is a fear, but then a joy. And we also find out, because again, Reed Richards is the smartest man in his world, in his universe. So he is good about solving problems. He makes sure that he can solve problems. One of the things about Reed Richards in that type of personality, I think that Sue was working a lot harder. Sue was working a lot harder to make sure that Reed's humanity showed, because we found some dark arcs with Reed Richards. Now, I love that. But I do love the fact that Sue was able to see that, and she was able to be that person that would talk him off the cliff. Because if it was up to Reed Richards, baby, I think he would have gave his baby to Galactus. Now, I'm just telling you, that's the way I feel. So he's a smart man. He's a workaholic. And he never seems like he liked a lot of interaction. The only person that he really, truly wanted to interact with was Sue, second Ben. And I don't know what the tension between him and Johnny, but you can tell he just sunned him a little bit. He was just like, hey, you stay over here. But we find out later that Johnny is not one, he may have been a womanizer and all of those things, but we also find out that you see why he has his spot on the team. We see why he has his spot. Now, whether or not the Reed appreciates that spot, don't know, but we do see why he has his spot. Let me tell you about Sue. Again, I think that Sue is Reed's moral compass. She spends a lot of time pulling him because he has jumped off that ledge, and she has grabbed those elastic legs and pulled him back, because he will jump if somebody doesn't talk to him down to jumping. The one thing that bothered me, and I would tell you about Sue, that bothered me, and I don't know if it bothered anybody else. I didn't like the fact that you go up in space when you know you are just about to give birth. I don't like that. I didn't like her. I didn't like that, giving birth in space. I didn't like you put your baby in harm's way, because, again, the way that society worked out is the fact that the Fantastic Four was the protectors of the world. I didn't like that. I didn't like her doing that. And then that bothered me on a spiritual level. That bothered me. And then to know that these people were actually looking to get your baby, and you are out here in space and there is nothing to support or help you. Thank goodness for the smarts of Reed Richards and the heroism of her brother and Ben's excellent piloting skills. I just didn't like that. I just didn't like that as a mother, to go out there and your baby is not here and you're putting you and yourself and your baby in jeopardy. I didn't like that. Now, she does redeem herself, and I will go back over that when we get down to that. So let's talk about Johnny. It seems like his character, his womanizing ways, as I remember it, it seems like they were tamping those down, and they were propping up his linguistic skills. What's her name? Captain Uhura on Star Wars. I mean, not Star Wars, Star Trek. I like the fact that they were showing that, he wasn't this scientist that had to work 100 hours a day, like his brother-in-law. But I do like the fact that his skills and his thing to the team wasn't just the fact that he was just brash and unpredictable. I do like them showing that, yeah, he has a level of smarts that we need to recognize and that we need to say, okay, we see why he is on the team. And shout out to that world to be using 72 albums to be able to record on them. Baby, when I saw that, I chuckled. They are real old school. They didn't need no CDs and no cassette tapes other than for the robot. But shout out to them for bringing all those retro feels that a lot of us in our 40s, 30s, late 30s, 40s, and 50s, what we kind of grew up with the cassette tapes and the albums and the being able to sketch it and shout out to all of that. And again, shout out to that retro feel. I truly enjoyed that. I do like him being very consistent and learning the language that this woman spoke, and his doggedness as far as finding that language that this woman spoke. I think that act in itself changed the tide of the show. I think it changed the tide of the show as far as them being able to get a win, because he was able to then show the Silver Surfer that just like her planet, this planet deserves to live. And he kind of presented to her all the stuff that she's done in the name of being a herald. So I do appreciate that. Now let's talk about Ben Grimm and his character. Is it me? But it felt like they left a lot about Ben Grimm and the character on the chopping floor, because because they alluded to some kind of first, like some flirtatious and some tension with her and the school teacher, and I think she was big in her synagogue. They alluded to stuff like that, and then it just seemed like it kind of dropped off. He was brooding, he was doing stuff like that, and I didn't like that. I would have, I don't know if that's something consistent that happened in the comments. Y'all let me know down in the thing, but and this is going to sound really bad, I would have rathered him to have I loved and I lost than to not have opened himself up to love at all. Because, with Ben, out of all four of the characters, his augmentations were physical. And I mean, they were physical to where that you can see them. Sue and Reed and Johnny can walk down the street and you wouldn't see their powers until they activated them. His powers were always on display. And I just felt like, even if they weren't, I felt like they should have at least for and was it almost a 2 hour movie, over a 2 hour movie, they really could have dedicated at least 3 to 4 minutes of Ben and his storyline. I'd rather he would have loved and lost than for him to have just been kind of brooding, thinking that he couldn't have love and because of his physical appearance. So I didn't like that. That bothered me because he's the character that in this whole situation that I had resonated with because of the fact, he didn't look like the rest of the team. And I'm not calling it a deformity or anything. I just think that his powers manifested themselves in physical and him being a rock and rock hard. And I just think that, hey, rocks need love too. Shout out to Rocco on Sesame Street. Woo, I'm sorry. Shout out to Herbie, but I liked his character. I liked that he was a little add-on. He was a little, not necessarily comic relief, but he was a character that you could kind of focus on. The only thing I didn't like was the fact that, damn it, you had to change the tapes. You couldn't build Herbie so that he could have 2 and 3 tapes in, and that he can pull from them 2 or 3 tapes. He only could pull from 1 tape. I didn't like that. And I would have loved to have seen him do something extraordinary and particularly something extraordinarily for Franklin. Now let's talk about little Mr. Franklin. So we see his birth, we see all of that, and we see him as a baby. Now y'all let me know, was Franklin CGI or was this a little baby? Because I'm sorry, outside Pedro Pascal, in my opinion, little Franklin acted his little tail off. He didn't appear to be but what, 2, 3, 4, 5 months, 6 months, or whenever. How old was he when Galactus got there? He was almost close to a year, but he wasn't there yet. I don't remember how old he was, but he still was an arm baby. Baby, that little baby acted his tail off. And you can say what you want to. You can say what you want to. That little baby acted his tail off, and particularly at the end, the interaction that he had with Sue. I thought that was endearing. I thought that was great. Now, it was interesting to see because, and y'all let me know if you caught it this way, because Reed was very concerned that there was all these anomalies going on with Franklin because Galactus wanted him. And Galactus made us point that this particular baby is a cosmic being. And so Reed was trying to find something, and it hit me like, you're not going to find the cosmic if you're doing the blood test and all that other stuff. That to me honestly seems like a more spiritual, magic type of situation. Hence why I think in the comics, Agatha was his nanny. But that's just me. He seemed, Franklin Richards seems like, yeah, he's a smart kid. Yes, he can manipulate time, reality, and space. Yes, he can do all of these things. And I think I'm saying these things correctly. Because remember, I'm a casual watcher. But I also think that there is some level, some spiritual level, not religious, but some kind of spiritual thing, rain or plan, whatever, that he taps into. And I think that people feel that. And I think also too, this is what I was going to ask you all. Do y'all think, because the way Reed would take that baby and keep that baby out of his sleep, to run all these tests on him, do you think he felt some kind of fear that Franklin was going to be physically looking like Ben Grimm, or have some kind of physical abnormality, or a physical abnormality was going to manifest? Because, I felt like, and that's what bothered me with Sue. Ain't no way in the world he should be running all these tests when that baby should be asleep. That baby is, if you give the baby a sleep pattern at night, you can run tests on your baby in the daytime if you want to, if Sue was going to let you do that. But I just felt like, and maybe that's the auntie in me, I just think that's what it is. I just didn't like that. I didn't like how he was keeping that baby out of sleep patterns. But I did, like I said, I thought Franklin, outside of Pedro Pascal, acted their behinds off. So that's enough with the, and then we had the Mole Man. Now, I do like the fact that Sue is such a diplomat that she was able to get the Mole Man on her side, and he liked her and stuff like that. That's cool. And that's cool. So let's talk about the Herald. I wasn't wowed by her, but I wasn't disappointed by her. I think from watching Fantastic Four and other iterations of this of the franchise, there wasn't anything exciting that was done. Some of the sequence scenes of her surfing and stuff like that were cute, but outside of all of that, she I think it was more to Johnny's storyline, him being able to connect with her versus her storyline. And is it me, but it seemed like she came from the homeworld that they showed, that homeworld looked eerily familiar to that Love and Thunder. What was that? What was that villain in there? The Love and Thunder, that homeworld looked eerily familiar to that. I don't know if it was the same one or not, but it looked eerily familiar. So let's talk again. We're going to move it because, like I said, I've talked about visually how I liked it. I talked about each one of the characters. I've also talked about whose acting that I liked. I did like Pedro Pascal's acting. I did like Little Franklin's acting. The other ones they did fair. I think that they had an opportunity to expand Ben Grimm, the actor that played them, but it seems like they left a lot on the cutting room floor. So the overall plot, the Herald comes, Galactus is coming, he's finna eat y'all. You ain't got no discourse or anything like that. So they decide that, hey, we're the world's protectors, like the Guardians of the Galaxy. They're the galaxy's protector. They're the world's protector. And they're going to go out and try to reason with Galactus. And that didn't work out too well. And like I said, the only thing that I think that did, that it exposed Franklin. And with that exposure, again, you have them fleeing from Galactus, and Sue is giving birth to Franklin in outer space. But is it me? But can Franklin claim citizenship since he was born out of space? Was the spaceship deemed like a diplomatic vehicle? Anyway, we're not gonna worry about all that. Because I did think about it. Because I'm like, he was born out of space. Is he technically a space alien? Now, Pam, you ain't had no business bringing no geopolitical stuff in there. But it was interesting to me. I mean, it was a good little special effects and a good little, plot turner or plot twist with the show. But that was just my question. What's going on with Mr. Franklin? And I'm gonna love Franklin until Franklin does something to make me not. Love me some little Franklin, baby Franklin. So now they have a little over a month or so to figure out how to defeat Galactus. They do all of these different things. They know they can't defeat him in space. So they decide, hey, we can't win this. But what we can do is be out. So they put all of these, I'm calling them antennas. They call them something else. All across the world. The world is working overtime. New York is evacuated down to the mole, the subterranean. All of these things are going on. And they're doing all of these things. And the only thing that didn't make any sense to me was, he has a herald. Do you not think that herald is sitting up in space, up to the point where they can see you without having you know they're in your space? And I mean, Galactus is coming. He's coming through the universe. He's coming. Now, I don't know how fast his ship was, but clearly, I guess he must have had to wait for his herald to return, because they had her looped in a black hole. So I guess they had to wait for her he had to wait for her to return before he went on to Earth. And speaking of the herald, one of the things we did find out was she was the one choosing the planets, which was interesting. Now, y'all let me know down in the comments. Did she have to choose planet that had life like that in it, on it, like people and stuff like that? Because y'all, you know what hit me? The Eternals. That's what hit me. Do you think that they were choosing planets because the celestial eggs were growing. Because she said she was the one choosing. So did the celestial egg have to be like soft boiled, not hard boiled, for Galactus to want to eat? I can't even believe I thought that was such a passing thought. Because when I started thinking about eating and stuff like that, I was like, well, wouldn't there be a celestial in the on the planet? So was that celestial? Did they have to be soft boiled? How is it that he comes and he picks his planets and stuff like that? When we understand and know that a lot of the planets have celestial eggs growing and incubating in the planet. That's just food for thought. Y'all let me, that hit me like a ton of bricks. So I don't know if it means anything. So Galactus comes on screen. Not only is he ugly, he looked like he stank. And I imagine he does. Eating all these planets, all the magma, the crust, the people, and all this other stuff. He just seems really, really gross. And then he comes on the planet. Now, the way I remember watching the trailer, and maybe they dialed him up, but I remember watching the trailer and everybody was like, oh, he's going to get smaller in order to walk through things. He doesn't appear like he got any smaller. I mean, granted, he's big. He's I wouldn't say Godzilla minus zero big, because I think he's a little bit bigger than that. But he's huge. I think he's Godzilla King of the Monsters big. That's what he appeared to me. So he was menacing to me. I'm just going to tell you, Goliath was menacing to me. Now, he had a goal, and he had one goal only. He wanted to eat. That was the only goal. That was the only thing. And also, he was tired of that life. And he felt like what he felt or gleaned out of Franklin is that Franklin could take that life, because apparently he's older than old. He's been around before any of the universes and stuff like that. So it tells me that he's tired of that life and he's ready to just like stop. I don't know his backstory all that well. Again, that's the casual watcher for me, and it's not necessary for me to know. But I do understand that at one point he was a humanoid, and he said that. So he said that. So I didn't find any problems with Galactus, honestly. I thought he was a decent villain for what was happening. I think this was more about, film was about family, how Sue, Reed, Johnny, and Ben worked together as a family, worked together as a team, how they loved and supported each other. I think that was important. I think that this movie was also showing us that at any time, any moment in time coming up, we may have, Reed Richards may have to be checked. Because when he goes through his head and does these scenarios, because I'm sorry, I think the only reason why he didn't offer up the baby at first was because of Sue. That's the only reason I think. I think if Sue would have given any inkling in the beginning that she wanted to offer up the baby and let him take the baby and go away, I don't think that would have been a good thing. And shout out to Johnny, keeping true to his word and being a good uncle. He was willing to sacrifice his life for his nephew outside the baby's daddy. So they have the big fight. They have the big thing. Because like I said, I'm not going to go inch by inch over and thing, but I just want to get us to a conclusion because we're almost running on. We are pretty much at the half hour mark. We get to the big scene. The biggest thing that they needed to do, that they only had the one level of antennas or whatever it was that they were going to use to move the earth, because that was the goal and the plan. They built all of these antennas or whatever they considered. I can't remember what the names of them were. They built them all over the world, and their goal was to move the earth to a different universe. And by the time that Galactus figured out what that universe was, they would have had many years. They would have been able to develop new technology. So if Galactus came again, they were just able to move the earth where they needed to. But the Herald knocked all those antennas out, but the ones in New York. So they had to get Galactus to come down. And so they used Franklin as bait. So, and you know how it ends. They defeat Galactus. And again, Johnny was going to risk his life to save his nephew. He was going to put the final blow on Galactus, but it ended up that the Herald did that. Galactus was sent to a whole nother universe. His ship is still in orbit. So that was going to weaken him a lot because he won't be able to feed. And that was pretty much the end. There are 2 post-credit scenes. One of them alluded to Robert Downey Jr.'s new character. And we saw hints of him in here because we saw the country that he was from at the UN. At the end, in the post-credit scene, we see that he somehow breaks into the Baxter Building and he's talking with Franklin. And it looks like they're talking with each other via telepathy. That's what it looks like to me. And Sue catches it. So, and it gives us a post-credit blurb that the Avengers will be in Doomsday. So we'll be looking for that. The second post-credit scene was it seemed like a scene from a cartoon. Wasn't all that big, but it was there and kept you in the studio. So that's basically it. Now, I'm just going to tell you like this. Again, I overall liked the movie. I did like the family element. I think that the Galactus, for what he was and who he was a decent villain. There's a couple of things that I didn't like, and I did test him with the fact that I didn't like the storyline with Ben. I think that they had more, but they left it on the cutting room floor, and that seemed disjointed to me. I think if they were going to do that, they should have done him like they did Johnny, and just not see any woman that he was talking to, and would have focused on his flying, and they could have spent a minute or two in a montage to show that Ben Grimm is that dude. He is that pilot. He is that dude. I think that they would have done. I do like the fact that he has connections to his neighborhood. He still lives, he has connections with his neighborhood. He loves the kids, all of that stuff like that. I do love that. But if you're going to almost set up a relationship, either commit to it or don't show it at all. That's just the way I feel. So, but maybe he'll, if they do a Fantastic Four movie number 2, maybe he'll have better luck with the ladies in that movie. Don't know. I will tell you this. Overall, I really do like the balance that they had. And what I mean about the drama, the comedy wasn't forced. Like other Marvel movies, like Love and Thunder, they were just forcing the hell out of that comedy to the point it didn't make any sense, and it left the God Butcher really looking foolish to me. He didn't have any depth or anything. They didn't show us his powers like I think that they should have. They were just trying to get everything was supposed to be some kind of comic relief. I do like the fact that was balanced. I do like the fact that they stuck with the plot of family, how family deal with adversity, how they are a team, how they have to trust one another, how they can act and operate as a team, all of those different things. Now, I did say, and I still stick by it, I just think I really would have loved a little bit more action scenes. That's just me. Like with Ben, you could have cut out that whole scene with the teacher and stuff like that. And you could have given us a little montage of him flying. There was some villain, and he had to do all this flying to kind of figure that villain out. I wish I would have seen a little bit more. You could have used that time. But other than that, like I said, it's a decent movie. Out of 5 stars, again, I still stick with the 3.75 stars, so 3.75. I think it was a good movie. Did it need a little bit of them? Like I said, the only thing that bothered me about that story, again, was the storyline of Ben. I just felt like I resonated from what I have been reading with the comics and stuff like that. I resonated more with Ben than any of the other characters. And for me, they lost that 0.25 points because I couldn't see this man because physically he looked different. I just hate the fact to see that he wasn't able to, at the least, have a friendship. Like I said, I think the colors with the muted background, but the pops of colors and the clothes and things like that. I love the retro futuristic feel of their world. Love that, love that, love that. So again, I give it 3.75 stars. So that's 3 3/4 stars. What did you all think about this? I just wanted to come back on and kind of clarify what I was meaning and saying in that first one, because it was just like the initial thing. And I felt like I was rambling and all over the place. And so I wanted to be as concise as I was with this one. I didn't see Superman, so I don't have that to compare to say how was it between that and Superman. I did not watch Superman. So Superman wasn't one of those movies that was a must for me to go out to the movie theaters to see it. So the only way that I'm going to be able to critique it is when it gets to HBO Max. And that looks like I probably need to wait 3 or 4 months, but that's okay. Y'all put it down below. What do y'all think about this movie? Looks like somebody has hold on, y'all. I'm trying to see. I'm on my phone, so I'm not in my, I'm on my thing and I'm not in the computer room. So I see a comment, but I can't read it for crap. Is there something I'm supposed to be touching so that I can read it? No, that's not it. Oh, I hate this because I want to read those comments. All right. So CJ, thank you so much for watching. Says I'll be part of the replay group, but I hit the like. I can't wait to see your take. Thank you. Dorsey Hay says hello. I've seen Sinners 28. Just 28. Because and you are not outside the norm. Because I've heard people say that they've seen it 10 to 15 times. I've only seen it 3 times. I think I got as much as I needed to get out of it at 3 times. But a lot of people seem to enjoy that movie. They're always finding something different that they see in regards to Sinners. All right, people. We do this every week. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video if you care. Y'all, what do you think about the Fantastic Four: The First Step? Are y'all going to see it, or have you all seen it? What are you going to do? Let me know down in the comments. All right, people. Please tell a friend, tell a kin, tell a coworker, tell that heifer that you can't stand that I'm over here making these videos. And as always, people, bye-bye.